You won't believe it. To survive, they might have to turn their dead companions into rations. This suggestion hit everyone like a sledgehammer in the cold wind, and Marcello's reaction was his face twisted in horror and anger, unable to accept this morally outrageous suggestion. His voice shook as he tried to argue back, but he couldn't come up with a better escape plan from the subtitle. Someone likened it to organ donation, but the young man cut in, at least that needs family approval. He'll find the family now. On the edge of this decision, everyone's face was a canvas of pain and struggle. Some began to smoke. Their eyes betrayed a pain that words couldn't capture, their hearts quivering in this. Others quietly weighed their options, their eyes glittering with a thirst for survival and moral struggle. All night, this heavy atmosphere enveloped them, making their internal battles against fear and ethics so their breath crystallized in the cold air, and their souls grew weak and shattered under the survival test. This was not just a hunger for food, it was a profound exploration of humanity, morality, and survival. On the 8th day, Kokonikuch wrote a letter to his parents from a picture-perfect place surrounded by mountains, with a frozen lake in the distance. There were 27 survivors now, and to subtitle, they yearned so deeply just to have a glimpse of their families again. By the 9th day, someone finally remarked, "Well, some survivors have ultimately resorted to extreme choices amidst the unbearable hunger and the immense pressure to survive. In a secluded corner, they quietly dissected the remains of their deceased companions." They were silent, and this act was so secretive that it aimed to reduce the psychological strain and impact. Though this action went against their morals, in the dilemma of life and death, they had no choice but to set their concerns aside. Others gazed skyward, awaiting rescue signals, their eyes reflecting hope and despair, hearts mourning and stunned by Pierre's drastic choices. Subtitles, then. Someone discovered a radio. Despite the fact that it had long been out of order, they still attempted to repair it with the hope of receiving some rescue news. When the radio finally functioned, the news was a shock. In 10 days, 17 planes carried out 66 rescues, finding nothing. The search would resume in spring after snow melted for easier body recovery. At this moment, Marcello's voice rang out again, filled with sorrow and guilt, as he began to urge others to eat for the fight of their lives and stuffed meat into his mouth. The young trio still refused to eat, determined to find the battery. Without any gear or plans, they rushed to the pursuit location, driven by their survival instinct, leading to their around them lay scattered plane wreckage, where they found the bodies of several teammates. Young Gaston was 23, Ramon 30, Ovidio 26, Alexis 20, and Vito's brother Daniel. Unfortunately, things weren't going smoothly. Night was approaching, and they still hadn't found the battery. The young guy insisted on searching, thinking that if the body was here, the tail of the plane must be nearby. The trio underestimated nature's power. The sun melted the snow, and they sank deep, losing their way. By nightfall, they could barely move, huddling together to keep warm, constantly patting their bodies to avoid freezing up. Finally, sunlight broke the next day, and they emerged from a thick blanket of snow, lucky to have escaped a disaster. Yet they learned a crucial lesson. The harder they tried to escape their predicament, the more treacherous the mountains became. They sat on the wreckage, sliding down the mountain and enjoying an extreme skiing adventure. But the young guy returned with greater despair, for outside lay endless white snow, lifeless and barren. The young man accepted the piece of meat passed to him by the man, clutching it in his hand all night long, and ultimately made up his mind to place it in his mouth, chewing it casually a few times and forcing himself to swallow it. It marked the first time he truly recognized that the likelihood of returning home was becoming increasingly remote. Nando persisted in daily training, driven by a steadfast conviction that beyond those mountains lay the verdant valleys of Chile. If no rescue team arrived, he would choose death over not climbing up to witness it. By the 17th day, the violent snowstorms became unbearable to withstand. Outside, the wind howled, but inside, it was lively with meat-eating routine. 27 survivors crammed together felt diverse emotions. At the same time, someone found a radio, though it was out of order. Yet, the group still hoped to fix it to hear any rescue news. However, when the radio finally worked, the news was a thunderbolt. In the assigned 10 days, 17 planes carried out 66 search and rescue missions to no avail. Search efforts will restart early next year in hopes that the melting snow will make finding bodies easier. At that moment, Marcello's voice resonated again, steeped in pain and guilt, yet he began urging others to eat and fight for survival, stuffing meat directly into his mouth. As the group broke free from the snow-covered cabin, they exuberantly celebrated their miraculous escape and survival. Seated on the snowy ground, they rejoiced with unbridled joy, as if rediscovering the innocent bliss of childhood and letting go of all inner burdens. Subtitles next. In order to seek rescue, they have to leave this place. Nevertheless, acting without any plan may make this situation even more perilous. To enhance their short-term chances of survival, they decided to wait for 2 weeks and then proceed after the snow had melted. By day 34, as the snow started to melt, the survivors' situation grew dire. Arturo's lungs were severely damaged, and while the young guy and Roberto tried to save him, no one could breathe for him, and Arturo's life suddenly ended at 21. By day 36, 4 survivors decided to descend towards Argentina, bundled in layers to combat the cold winter nights. However, just after setting off, the young guy's condition took a turn for the worse as he fell off a cliff and lost consciousness. His infected leg wound forced the team to retreat. Eventually, the young guy returned alone while the other 3 pressed on. Fortunately, Nando brought back good news. After walking east for over 3 hours, they suddenly discovered the tail of the plane behind a small hill. It had been ejected during the explosion. Subtitles. The place was filled with suitcases, clean jackets, several crates of new liquor and cigarettes, along with an abundance of chocolate. The young man named Sayoshi's eyes instantly sparkled at the prospect of everyone indulging in a grand feast. Nando thoughtfully opened them all up for him. The 3 spent a night outside, aware of the risks, but they found the plane's battery. Since the battery was heavy, the only option was to take the radio there for repairs. They removed the radio from the chicken's head, found an antenna, and Nando, Roberto, Ding Ding, and Roy went to the tail. Roy was weak but ready to take the risk. But after connecting the wiring, the radio didn't work, and everyone's situation remained grim. Each passing day saw more lives lost. He lamented at 25 he had much left to do, see family, dance, cry, but no tears came. Nando found much waterproof material for wire wrapping. It might work, but a short circuit blew up the radio. As of today, 17 survivors are still on the mountain crash site. 4 shared the bad news but found waterproof material and made sleeping bags from it. Sleeping bags, they could spend the night outside. Then they heard over the radio that Flight 571 had been missing for 58 days, and the Air Force had prepared a C-47 plane to continue searching the Andes. Although the rescue operation was started, the team held no hopes, continuing to stitch sleeping bags in pursuit of the hope to escape the mountains. On this sunny day, Ding Ding took a camera, insisting on photographing everyone to capture the moment, without considering who'd see the pics. Perhaps someday those people could see the photos, and the team knew they'd come alive in their memories. The young man knew he was dying. He told Nando fighting for teammate survival would make him happy. Then, at 25, he died. Numa Torukoti died on December 11, 1972, holding his last words, which read, "The greatest love is sacrificing for a friend." His words gave great strength to survivors as they prepared to leave next day. Times Earl. Every step pushed the limits of life. They found sheltered spots to set up their sleeping bags, huddling together to survive one bone-chilling night after another. In such dire straits, even the beautiful mountain scenery was veiled by the shadow of death. Nando believed that the Andes couldn't stretch on forever. As long as they crossed the valley, they'd reach their destination. Yet their food merely sustained them for a week. Every decision in the extreme environment carried risks. Choosing to stay in the wreckage or to press forward was a matter of life. Subscribe to track survivors' stories and see if they find safe passage.